Good afternoon. My name is Harry Henshaw of Enhanced Healing Counseling, and I'm here to do a video blog on a blog article that I did this morning and also presented in the 7 o'clock support group. Before I start to talk about some of the principles of transformation and the blog article that I wrote, which is also presented on my website, enhancedhealing.com, when I was going to school many years ago in Toronto, I was working on a doctoral program in philosophy. And situations being, I needed to come back into the States to work. I had run out of money. And so the necessity was that I would move back to the States and get a job and maybe return back to Toronto after a while. So I moved from Toronto to Chicago. I had lived in Chicago during the summers, visiting my relatives and things like that. So when I moved to Chicago, I got a job in an ACLF, which was strictly mental health. And I absolutely knew very little about mental health. So I started to study and read books while I worked at the ACLF, which was like a group home for mental health folks. And at one point, I got a hold of a book, New Guide to Rational Living by Dr. Albert Ellis. And it was recommended to me by a friend. And when I started to read it, I really started to get the importance of thinking, something that was very foreign to me in the sense of thinking has a psychological impact on a person. And I started to think a great deal about the importance of thinking, rational thinking, irrational thinking, as Albert Ellis talked about it. And it started to wake up me to a very powerful component of me being a human that I really wasn't aware of, how powerful our thoughts are. After staying in the city of Chicago for 4 or 5 years, I decided to pursue another doctoral program, this time to allow me to become a therapist and to do counseling. So I moved to Boston and enrolled in Boston University. And while I was there, one afternoon, about 2 years into my doctoral program, I went across the Charles River and visited a place called the Harvard Bookstore. And at the Harvard Bookstore, I found this book in the bookshelves. And the name of it was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. I was fascinated by reading it. And not only was her approach cognitive in orientation, but it brought in an element of self-esteem and self-love that Dr. Ellis really didn't deal with. And I started to think a lot about it and started to create my own approach to doing counseling, with thinking and self-esteem being the major components of it. So when I moved to Miami, I started to develop this theory slowly over a few years. And I started to see the importance of using Louise Hay's work as the backdrop, sort of the curriculum, to help people start this conversation about self-love. So what I'd like to do is to go over some of the components of her work and just present them. You can get a copy of this on the article that's on the website. You can read the entire article that I wrote this morning. One of the things that she talks about, again, is the power of our thinking and how important it is. And from the power of thinking, she says that we're absolutely responsible for everything that we think, everything that we believe, say, feel, do, and experience. In fact, she says that our thinking creates our experiences. This also, she talks about the illusion of blame. And in fact, if we are responsible for everything that we create, then blame is really not necessary. And a lot of times we create things, and when these things don't work out the way that we think they should have, we start to look around to blame people. But the truth is, we did the initial creation. And we have to take ownership of it to be able to restore our power. The next concept that I think is extremely important is that we are doing the best that we can at the moment, given the knowledge, understanding, and awareness that we have at the moment. What this has led me to sort of work with people is I emphasize the importance of knowledge, of gaining knowledge by reading, gaining knowledge by watching videos, say on YouTube, having conversations with people. The more knowledge that you acquire, the more power you have. So there's a direct relationship between that. But it's always important to sort of get that we are doing the best that we can. Also, our beliefs, the origin of a lot of our beliefs come from, especially the ones early on, comes from our childhood. And it's not that we are programmed. We create our beliefs about ourselves, especially in relationship to the early people in our lives, usually our parents. And it's here where we pick up what we will talk about later, the belief that we are not good enough. Also, she believes that our beliefs that we have inside our heads, consciously or subconsciously, primarily unconsciously, must match the experiences that we have. So when we want to change our experiences, literally we have to change our thinking, both consciously and especially unconsciously. We can change the present. All of the thoughts that we have at the moment, we can change them. Even the negative thoughts we have, especially the negative thoughts that we have. The root of all suffering, she says, Louise Hay says, is to be found in a belief that we're not good enough. I believe it's the source, the primary source of substance use disorders and also mental health disorders, especially things like depression, where if you think that you're not good enough, you start to have things like poor self-esteem, which can lead to depression. So I believe that substance use disorders and also mental health disorders sort of derive from the fact that people believe that they're just not good enough, that they're inadequate, they're broken, that there's something wrong with them. Also, forgiveness is extremely important in this work of transformation and the work of Louise Hay. When we forgive somebody, when we forgive ourselves, we start to cut loose from the past. We leave the past and we sort of come back to the present. It's in the present moment that our power is. As long as we're stuck in the past, blaming other people, having resentments and things like that, we diminish our ability to change and transform. We have very little power. So when we forgive and let go of our past and move into consciously and unconsciously into the present, we start to restore our power to change and transform our lives. Learning to love yourself, in my opinion, is the primary goal for the people that I work with in substance use problems and also mental health issues. When people learn how to start to love themselves, their life starts to change in everything. Their relationships change, situations at work change, their health gets better. So to me, and I agree with Louise Hay, the only thing that she ever worked with people in what I do now is helping people to learn how to love yourself. And when people learn how to love themselves, like I said, their life transforms and everything gets better. Well, I hope this has been an interesting video this afternoon for people. Again, if you want to read the article that this is from, it's on the resource section of my website, enhancedhealing.com. And the name of it happens to be about you can change your thinking, you can change your life. So I'd like to thank you for showing up this afternoon. And again, I will be here attempting to do more videos. The goal is I'm going to be try to do one a day, because I think it's important to start to inform people about the work and transformation and the value that it has for helping people to end substance use issues and also repair mental health problems. Again, thank you very much, and I will see you soon.